Hello, everybody. In our parsha, we read about the passing of both Miriam and Aharon, and also about the decree that HaKadosh Baruch Hu issued regarding the two brothers, Moshe and Aharon, that they were destined not to be zocha to enter Eretz Yisrael. Ya'an asher lo ha'emantem bi lahakdisheni. Question that's raised is, why didn't Miriam be Zocha to enter Eretz Yisrael? So there are those who want to suggest because she had spoken out in Parshat Bahalotcha, she was the ringleader in speaking out against Moshe, and there may be other reasons that some Mefarshim try to give, although there's very little discussion on this question. But the question is, we find in the Torah only a gezerah regarding the two brothers and not regarding Miriam. Miriam, who was one of the seven Neviot, who was one of the three Parnasei Dor HaMidbar, and yet she doesn't merit to enter Eretz Yisrael. How come? So we know that the males of the Dor HaMidbar, the adult males, were not zocha to enter Eretz Yisrael, but Rashi in the beginning of Parshas Pinchas tells us that this gezerah was not decreed against the women. After all, as the Medrash in Bamidbar Rabbah tells us, the women did not take part of either the Chet HaEgel nor the Chet HaMeraglim. One wonders, how is that so? Only the men were guilty of these chatoim and not the women? How is it that the women did not participate and yet the men did? So Rav Neria Zatzal has a very interesting observation. The Targum on a pasuk in Micha that states, "Va'eshlach lefanecha es Moshe, Aharon u'Miriam," the Targum tells us that Moshe was sent to teach the dinim, Aaron to bring about atonement for the people, and Miriam to teach the women. So Moshe taught the men to some degree, Aaron taught the men, Miriam taught the women, and somehow she was more successful in teaching the women who did not partake of Chet HaEgel and Chet Meraglim than Moshe and Aaron were regarding the teaching and education of the men. How is that? As great as the two brothers were, their primary interaction with the people was in a group setting, as a machaneh. As inspiring as they were nonetheless somewhat removed from the people. Whereas Miriam was mamish in the midst of all the people. She did what the men did, what Moshe and Aaron did. But on top of that, by Shirat Hayam we read, "V'teitzena kol hanashim achareha," after Miriam, "bitupim uvimcholot." Miriam led the way and joined in with all of the women as part of the chevra, as one of them, in the singing, the dancing, and the rejoicing, and presumably, says Rav Neria, not just at Shirat Hayam, but this was her way of leadership in general, to be a true part of the people. If so, the question's only strengthened. Why was she not zocha to enter Eretz Yisrael? And I think that perhaps it's dafka that there was no sin of sufficient gravity that should have prevented it. What do I mean? The Gemara in Moed Katan on Daf Chavchet raises the question regarding the adjacency in our parsha of Para Aduma to the death of Miriam. Ma karbanot mechaprim, af mitat tzadikim mechaprim. Just as sacrifices bring about atonement, so too does the death of a righteous leader. So I asked myself a question. Fine, Miriam was righteous, but why is Para Aduma adjacent to her death? Why not put it adjacent to Moshe's death, adjacent to Aharon's death? Why dafka Miriam is selected to teach this important lesson? And I think the answer is because the Torah tells us that there were specific reasons why Moshe and Aaron could not enter Eretz Yisrael. No such reason exists by Miriam. Miriam's death, therefore, can mean but only one thing. Misas tzadikim is mechaper, just like the bringing of karbanos. May we all learn from Miriam that the way to extend our influence is not just to teach from afar, from on high, but to dance and be a part of the life of the people that we hope to lead. Shabbat Shalom.